Broly fans rejoice because your patience is finally being rewarded. It is officially the year of the legendary Super Saiyan, and the first of 3, maybe even 4, different releases is here. This is the Demoniacal Fit Legendary Berserker. What's up folks, KC here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, if this is your first video, again, welcome. And if you've been here before, you know the drill, so what up, oos? Listen, we are still on the road to 2K subs, so don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. If you don't, I'ma send Broly to chest bump you. Yeah, straight like that. So it's no secret that Demoniacal Fit takes what Tamashii already did, tweaks it a little, and calls it their own. And a lot of times they recreate characters that were either event exclusives or just hard to come by. Either way, I ain't mad at it. Now, before this release, the best price you could find for the SH Figure Arts Z Broly was $300 minimum. So with the release of the legendary Berserker only costing 60 bucks and being readily available, this was a no-brainer. And dare I say, it may even be better than the OG Broly. But I wouldn't know, because I don't have them. And yes, the sculpt is outdated. Yes, the accessories aren't anything special. And yes, the articulation, well, to be honest, the articulation ain't that bad. But even with all that, I gotta say, it feels so good to finally have this sculpt in hand. Now, let's take a closer look. Now the details on this guy are tricky, because although they're good and they match what Tamashii was able to pull off really well, I don't know how accurate it is to the source material. For one, his face is too short, his neck is too small, his shoulders are too big, and his breasts are too round. But it's something about finally having this sculpt in hand that just feels special. The shading in the skin is something we just don't get as often anymore. The shine in his necklace, gauntlets, and boots look amazing. The folds and wrinkles in his skirt piece help shape the legs perfectly, and that light blue wash in his pants help make them stand out from being just a plain white wrinkled sculpted plastic. But the major miss for me is that face. You know, the most defining thing about a person. Now, I'll give it to Demoniacal Fit. They did a good job adding line work to the faces to add some more definition, and that actually makes the faces look much better than SHF's. But the sculpt is still too short, his chin is too rounded, and his face doesn't have any shading in it. So it's a drastic contrast from the rest of his skin. Now another touch I would have loved to see DF do is make his hair color green. Tamashii messed up giving the original one yellow hair, but DF could have rectified that situation by simply copying their event exclusive colorway instead of the original. They missed a great opportunity with that. So the details are getting a 3.5 out of 5. Again, they did an amazing job duplicating Tamashii's sculpt. But at this point, that sculpt is over 10 years old. Tweak it just a little bit more. Shoot, Bandai ain't checking for y'all? And as I looked at it more, I really would have preferred if they copied Tamashii's event exclusive colorway. Not just that green hair, but the different skin tone too. Cause that's how I remember Broly. But, you know, personal preference, I guess. The legendary Berserker is a lot of plastic, and typically with bigger figures, the accessories tend to suffer. And that's the same case here. So let's see what we got. For starters, LB comes with 3 pairs of hands. It's got a pair of Mink Minks, a pair of grasping hands, and a pair of blasting hands. He also comes with a hand that palms a Super Saiyan Goku hair sculpt. So if you got any 2.0 Gokus lying around, and Lord knows there's plenty of them, you can recreate that one scene from the movie where Goku gave up on the world for a second. He also comes with 3 orb effects that I guess are supposed to go into his hands, but he doesn't have any way to grasp them. Now the figure does come with a stand to peg them into, but I'm firmly against stands, so I'm never going to use it. And lastly, Not Broly Broly comes with 3 faceplates. 1 stern, 1 smirking, and 1 yelling. Again, the line work really helps bring out the sculpts, and I wish they would have extended that to the mouth of the yelling sculpt, but even if they did, it still feels like he's missing 1 or 2 expressions. So accessories also get a 3.5 out of 5. I wish he had hands with pegs in them so he could actually grasp the orbs, at least one finger pointing hand, and a gridded T-scope so I could recreate his iconic transformation scene that's been embedded in my brain for over 20 years. Again, I know they're just copying what Tamashii already did, but be a little original. You copycat? For such a meaty man, this figure articulates surprisingly well. Nah, he's not making the claim for most articulated figure arts figure, but he can hold his own. Now, I'm not the articulation guy, and POAs mean absolutely nothing if Broly can't stomp some heads, but thankfully, he's not a super agile character, so the figure doesn't have to be either. Now let's take a look at the articulation. For starters, Berserker's head sits on a unique double hinge ball joint, which allows him to get some good range. He can rotate, tilt, look up a bit, and down into his cleavage. He can hit a Y pose, which is wild, full rotation at the shoulder, bicep swivel, nice double jointed elbows, and rotation and tilt at the wrist. Now, out of the box, the shoulder joints were a little tight, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it didn't allow for a full movement in his arms. So I hit it with some oil to free him up. And while the oil does unlock the full articulation, it also makes the arms a little weak, so pick your poison. The high butterfly joints go forward that much, not too much backwards. Top and bottom torso articulation allow for swivel, tilt, swivel at the waist, crunch forward that much, and... Now the soft plastic in the skirt pieces are a nice touch, and they allow the legs to split about that much, kick forward that high, and back a surprising amount too. There's swivel at the thigh, double jointed knees, no boot swivel, and stiff yet full articulation at the foot. So articulation gets a 4 out of 5. Although it's based on an older sculpt, the articulation is really good. The outdated butterfly joints are a little blah, and the legs being attached by a little ball joint worry me in the long run, but that's a problem for future KC. Now, let's move on to my favorite section, the size comparisons. For a 10-year-old mold, the scaling still lines up with Figure Arts figures of today. And that's mainly because Figure Arts hasn't changed up their scaling in forever, for better or worse. So let's do some size comparisons. First off, we have the SH Figure Arts Dragon Ball Super Armored Broly and Dragon Ball Super Full Power Broly. Damn, I can't lie. Figure Arts went so crazy with their newer Brolys. The scaling is great and all, but the design and engineering they put into Full Power, I hope that one day they revisit this Z Broly with that same level of detail. But they probably won't. Next up, we have the Black Hole Toys Furious Hero and the SH Figure Arts Super Saiyan Vegeta. Now, based on this prison lineup drawing by the late great Akira Toriyama, Goku's base hair is to come up Broly's nip. So this is close. But I personally still want Broly to be a little bit bigger. Here he is next to the Tonson Art Toys Unbound Wrath and the SH Figure Arts Team Gohan. Now these two were just in the film to job out to the legendary Super Saiyan and call for their daddies. And here he is next to the SH Figure Arts Krillin and Piccolo. And to me, this has less to do about Broly and more to do about the other two. I feel like Krillin's a little too tall, while Piccolo's not tall enough. Figure Arts really needs to make a taller Piccolo. Ideally, his head should be reaching the top of Broly's brolic shoulders. Switching lines, and here's how he matches up with a couple Mafex figures with the Dark Knight Returns Superman and Nightfall Bane. Here he is next to a couple thicker legends with the Deluxe Venompool and Thanos. This is him next to the Strongest Avenger with the Diamond Select Hulk and Legends Thor. And lastly, here's how the legendary Berserker stacks up against a couple other fan favorites with the Rebel Tech Spider-Man 2.0 and the Mafex Tiger Stripe Wolverine. So scaling gets a 4 out of 5. He not only scales well within the Figure Arts line, but he also scales well outside of the line. I'd just prefer if he was a tad bit taller. Not Beast Deity size, but somewhere in between. So overall, the Demoniacal Fit Legendary Berserker, again, is a great alternative to the figure art Z Broly, and at a fraction of the cost. The problem with that is that model is old and outdated. I would have loved to see DF take a few more chances and switch up the engineering just a little bit, but then again, that's not really what they do. And for 60 to 70 bucks, I'm more than okay with it. Pricing gets a 5 out of 5. I can't figure out what the OG figure arts Broly retail for, but I know in the aftermarket he went for $300 easy, and the re-release announced was up for pre-order for about $90. So being able to get this guy at 60 bucks is a steal. Absolutely worth it. That price bumps the overall score up to a solid 4 out of 5, and it's definitely deserving. For those people like myself who came into the collector game a little bit late and were unable to secure an official copy of the OG Broly, this is a phenomenal substitute. And although I may not have that figure arts one on hand, it's hard to imagine it being $30, let alone $230 better than this one. That'll do it for this review. In the comments, let me know what sought after figure you wouldn't mind DF reproducing next. Me personally, I'd love to see them take a crack at Android 17 and 18. Not being able to add them to the collection at a reasonable price is super frustrating. Anyway man, until next time, don't forget to protect your peace, stay young at heart, and remember, we're all kind of collecting something. Peace.